What's going on, everyone? So the Houston Rockets suffered a huge blow, right? Fred Vanvleet is going to miss the entirety of the season with an ACL injury, which is just really unfortunate for this Houston team that really has promises after getting Kevin Durant, trying to go win an NBA championship this season. Fred Vanvleet, could play a big role for them. He's a guy that is their veteran leader. He's a guy that is, in many ways, kind of their anchor and stability in that team for such a young team, right? Like, he's a guy that, production-wise, can kind of be a little hot and cold at times, right? He always has kind of been. He's one of those guys that I do believe is overpaid, but I understand for a Houston side of things, they kind of need him just to be that presence, be that stability out there for them. And he's a guy that doesn't necessarily need the ball, right? He can bring the ball up, kind of initiate, be that 3-and-D style guard for you, where you have all these guys now that can be your offensive pieces and kind of your engines, and Alperen Sengun and Min Thompson, right? You got Kevin Durant now. Got these guys where you don't really need Fred VanVleet out there cooking, trying to get you 20 a night. But he can be a little inefficient and stuff. Right? But there's questions of like, is Houston essentially cooked now? And I don't think so, right? Like, again, I don't want to undersell Fred VanVleet and what he means for this team and the importance of him on this team. But production-wise, I actually think that there is a version of Houston that's actually better, right? Because they have the defense and length and size and versatility, right? They have endless waves, right? Like, the problem is they focus so much on the wing depth and the versatility and the size. They got like 11 players with like a 7+ foot wingspan, right? Like, they are long, they're lengthy, they're athletic, they're versatile, right? So as far as like masking and making up the defense, the loss of Fred VanVleet, you got that. You're good. And it's also part of the problem that they're in this situation, because Houston cannot replace Fred VanVleet right now, because they are arguably the first and they are like right there. They are right with them. They had to just give away Cam Whitmore just to kind of clear it, right? So they can't just go out and get somebody. So now they're going to lean very heavily in guys like Reed Sheppard and stuff, right? To kind of get them through. But as far as like, again, the defense, they'll be fine. The initiating, I think they'll be good. You got Kevin Durant and Min Thompson, right? Reed Sheppard, I think, can initiate and stuff. You got several guys that I think can play that role for you. It kind of goes to show, like, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. They put all their eggs in like the wing depth and whatnot, and they have so much in an abundance, which could bode well for them later on, where they can maybe go make a trade. Right, you look at teams like the Lakers that could really use some two-way athletic wings, and they have guys like Gabe Vincent or like an Austin Reeves or something like that, to where, maybe Houston, if they get into the season, could go, hey, let's go trade for a Gabe Vincent, right? He can kind of fill in the Fred VanVleet role, but he's also an expiring contract, to where, we can kind of let him walk, clear off his salary when Fred VanVleet comes back, and then get back into the swing of things. Or you can keep Gabe Vincent and maybe sign him to a new deal or whatever, if he's really good for you. Kind of now have that guard depth, and you kind of learn from your mistakes, right? And it just so happens the Lakers really need kind of wing depth. So you have pieces to where you can maybe make that move at the trade deadline. But if you're Houston, you got to be patient, wait and see. Because I do think that there is a version of Houston that is actually better. One of their biggest issues is offensive production, right? Like last season, they really struggled offensively. Now, Kevin Durant's going to help to an extent, but and during the regular season, I don't think it'll be as big of a deal as we saw last season. But then they got to the playoffs, and you saw them like going these long, drawn-out sequences where they can't score the basketball. But their defense is good enough to keep, like Golden State and stuff like that contained. But, they're behind the 8 ball here, and then, all of a sudden the defense starts to leak a little bit, and now all of a sudden you lose in games, right? So, again, you're putting a lot of pressure. Now, Kevin Durant's going to help in a lot of ways, like the tight games, closing out games, finishing games for them that they might have lost otherwise last season, and then just being that consistent, more reliable kind of scorer. But Kevin Durant also hasn't had the best injury history the last few years and stuff, and he kind of, he can be that, that veteran anchor and whatnot and all that stuff, but it's just, if you kind of could use some offensive injection. Well, Reed Sheppard, if he could be that for you, could potentially raise the ceiling higher, because he has the potential to be a better offensive player than Fred VanVleet. Right? Again, Fred VanVleet can be a little inconsistent, can be a little inefficient, where if you can bring in a Reed Sheppard, he can kind of, again, be that initiator, but maybe be a better shooter, better off-ball guy. Problem is we haven't really gotten to see him enough sample size to really be comfortable of assessing like whether he'll be great in that role or not. But I do think that there is that potential, right? But like you look at Fred VanVleet, the thing is the postseason. He really steps up in the postseason, which is where I think the concern is. But like during the regular season, this past season, he shot 37.8% from the field, 34.5% from three-point range, right? So, it's not like he's a guy that's shooting the lights out, but you look at the playoffs, he shot 43.5% from three-point range and 43% from the field. He's basically just a three-point shooter for, the Houston Rockets. Again, he's kind of that, catch and shoot, like he initiates, gets the ball, gets them in their action, and then he getting the ball, launching it, letting it go. Reed Sheppard, I think, could fill in that role and potentially fill it better as far as offensive production. So Houston may end up actually being better offensively just by default, which could, this could be something where, you've seen in the past where it's like a guy comes in, plays a role, and you realize, oh, we're actually better this way. And then it's like, now, the problem is like Fred VanVleet might end up being the odd man out, right? Like as soon as next season. Because if Reed Sheppard can kind of come in, play that role, and give you more offensive efficiency, right? That could be the difference, right? Again, I don't want to undersell Fred VanVleet, but I don't think it's the end of the world for this Houston team. I actually think that there is a version where this is better. Because now you're going to be able to put the ball more in Şengün, Kevin Durant, right? Amin Thompson's hands. You're going to be able to let those guys be more aggressive. And again, you're going to have a Reed Sheppard just essentially bring the ball up, get it to one of them, put them in their actions, and then he's going to be playing off ball. And if he can shoot the way that we've seen him shoot, all of a sudden, like that could really start to tick up the offensive versatility and production and kind of make Houston a more offensive threat that they aren't with Fred VanVleet, unless Fred VanVleet is cooking. Like Fred VanVleet will have those games where he's just like lights out. I mean, we've seen those games where he's like, 9 of 10 for 8 of 9 from 3 or whatever. And you're just like, wow, this guy's like having himself a game. We've seen the games where Fred VanVleet is really good offensively, but it's not like night in and night out, game in and game out. Right? And I'm not expecting Reed Sheppard to come in and just be the savior for this team immediately. But if he can kind of, as the season progresses, kind of, again, fill that role, I wouldn't be shocked if you look at Houston and be like, wait a minute, they might actually be better. Like this team might actually be scarier because they might be better offensively because they have you're not worried about the defense. You're worried about, can they maintain the level of offense to kind of balance out the defense? And if they can with Reed Sheppard, that could do wonders for them. And then again, maybe you are going and getting, a Gabe Vincent or something like that, or just like, a veteran guard for the playoffs because, you haven't seen Reed Sheppard in the playoffs. So it's like, hey, it'd be nice to kind of have that guy just in case, right? Like, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it type thing. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.